This episode of WDW Today is being sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, the official travel agency of WDW Today. And if you'd like help with planning your next trip to Walt Disney World, it's not even help. You know what it is? It's about getting things done easier. Less stuff for you to worry about, and you can focus on the more important things. The great agents at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel can help you plan your next trip to Walt Disney World. Why not let the good agents such as Becky and all of our agents over there do the work for you? Visit them online at www.mousefantravel.com.
This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, February 4th, 2009, and this is episode 522 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Len, have you recovered yet from the fabulous victory of these Pittsburgh Steelers?
I've not, actually. It's going to be a glow that lasts for many, many, many weeks. So
right.
Very excited about it.
That's right. Len is actually coming to us live from Tampa Stadium. He's sitting still in his seat with the number one foam finger still raised in the air.
Exactly. Still replaying everything in my mind. So.
Also on today's show is Mike Newell, Mouse World Radio. Mike, we've been on you about a title, but you know what? Someone else has done the job for you. Since this is Wednesday, one of our listeners has emailed us in and given me the title because you haven't given it to me. Stuart Sternberg writes, at the beginning of episode 521, you asked Mike Newell if he came up with a title for himself. And he said the lawyers had not gotten back to him yet. Well, word has just come down from the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, and that his title has been approved. And you want to hear what your title is?
I'm afraid.
Executive Emeritus of Mouse World Radio, ruler of all things magical, the master of magnificence, the one and only Mike Newell.
Even you have a hard time saying that. How am I going to fit that on a business card?
You just have to put all the little, like the abbreviation, EEMWRRATMMM, Mike Newell. And also joining us today with a slightly less complicated title, it's Annette Owens, a manager of customer relations and group services at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Welcome, Annette.
Hi, guys. Hey, Mike, you just need a poster, not a business card.
Yeah, I'm going to have to roll it up and carry it around in a tube.
Look at me.
Well, thank you, Stuart, for that email. And, of course, with Stuart's email, that can only mean one thing. It's Wednesday, and we're answering your listener questions. And we're going to start out with a question from... Who is this from? Jeff Mullen, who writes, being from New England, I remember my parents taking me to New Hampshire to see the Old Man of the Mountain. They told me it was a Rushmore-style tribute to Scopa carved by Native Americans. I was dismayed when it collapsed a couple of years ago, and I thought it meant he was dead. Imagine my delight upon discovering your podcast and hearing his dulcet tones. I'm not afraid to admit I cried manly tears of joy. Anyway, here's my question. In July, my family will be spending a week at Scopa Towers, of course. I was reading in the book. No ding?
It's a good book. Ding, ding.
I'm not home.
Oh, that's right.
No ding.
Ding. That the time difference between driving from Pop and taking Disney transportation was negligible for all the parks. Would it still make sense for us to rent a car? My wife and I both work in education, so money's not an object we possess. I would rather spend the money on a nice anniversary dinner instead. What do you think? Skip the car or use the bus system or go to a nice dinner? Or is the rental car that important? Thanks for your help, and I get first dibs on the Hindenburg Suite at the Legendary Years. Meet you in the Dust Bowl pool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. You know that there's going to be like a tribute to Ricketts.
Oh, the humanity.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, if money's that tight, I would just use Magical Express and get around on the bus system.
Yeah, I mean, when money's tight, certainly going with Magical Express and using the internal park transportation is something you're going to do. Obviously, I still think it's just a mental thing having your own car there, being able to go when you want, where you want, and I mean, with the buses, it's hit or miss a lot of times. I think anyone will admit to that, regardless of your affinity for rental cars or not. Is that sometimes you'll have one trip and you hit every single bus and it's fantastic, it's the best thing in the world. And there's other times all it takes is that one trip, that one time where you're waiting for the bus and it's forever, or you get there and there's a huge line. But certainly, if you want to save up some money, why not?
I mean,
That's just it.
Be prepared.
There's something about being on a stinky, sweaty bus in mid-July, though, that kind of doesn't do it for me.
Really? It does it for me.
Oh.
Can't imagine. By the way, speaking of old-time stuff, I finally got a chance to see the Niagara Falls joke. I was browsing the WDW Today wiki, and I had never actually known what you guys were talking about with Niagara Falls. And I actually now I watched it, and everywhere I go.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a great video. You have to, if you don't know what we're talking about, go to the WDW Today wiki and look up the Niagara Falls joke over there. There's a link to a YouTube video, and you can watch it over there. It's hilarious. Next email is from Jeremy Muse. He writes, "Hey, gang. First, the kissing of the butt, so my questions will be answered. Love the show. Nothing like a quickie when I'm running." That came out wrong.
Hey.
Moving on. My wife is turning 30 in March, and to celebrate, she's going to run in the Princess Half Marathon. Originally, the run was promoted with the Pirate and Princess Party.
Yep.
We just recently received an email from Disney saying that the party was canceled and will be now an exclusive Princess Half Marathon Happily Ever After party in the evening of March 8th at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I've never heard of the private parties at Disney's Hollywood Studios and was wondering what we could expect from the party. Will Toy Story Midway Mania be open? Will my 1.5 and 4-year-old have something to do? We bought extra tickets for the Pirate and Princess party, and they transferred them to the other party, which has us a little worried.
Yeah, you're getting jacked.
I mean, the thing is, they've never had this party before at the studios for the Pirate and Princess Half Marathon.
They never will again.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, if it's gonna be something like the Tower of Terror thing, where something's open like an hour or 2 hours. I don't know. I mean, they might do something really, really all out. But I think that switching it from the Magic Kingdom to the studios, especially for substituting a Pirate and Princess party for whatever they're going to do at the studios, those things are not equitable. And to say that they're worth the same amount of money, I think is.
Yeah, I mean, it's transfer the price. I agree with you on that, Len.
Princess Marathon, and it's a princess in the studios?
But it's the day after the race. What the heck is that?
What? Oh.
Really? It's on the 8th?
The race is on the 7th.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, the thing is to really, I mean, they've obviously haven't done this before, so we don't have any frame of reference to go on here. I mean, we don't know if it'll even be like the Tower of Terror race. I mean, it might be more, might be less. It's hard to say. I mean, basically, you might want to go off, for lack of anything else to go off of. I mean, just assume maybe you want to go off of what they did at the Tower of Terror race in the after party and hope that it's something similar to that. In that case, you had attractions like Tower, Coaster, Toy Story, Great Movie Ride, and Star Tours open. Don't know. Again, we don't know how long. I mean, when you get down there and you show up to register, I suspect the information.
Oh, I take that back. The race is on the 8th. It's the Sunday the 8th.
Okay. Well, that makes much sense. I can't imagine. Yeah, that'd be weird if they had it on different days.
That was very weird. Day of recovery and the party.
Next email is from Darren K, a.k.a. Nightwind on WDW Today. Hoorah! And StudioCentral.com. Ooh. Of St. Louis, Missouri. Writes, "Hello, gents and the fabulous one. After not visiting in about 15 years, I've bought the unofficial guide, ding, at least 4 times in the past 6 years, and I've been listening to the podcast forever, but I'm finally going back to put your knowledge to action. I'm pretty proud of how I've handled the planning so far, but I just noticed a possible problem. I've got a reservation for the 50s prime time at 6:30 p.m. on a day when the studios are going to be closing at 7. Is this a bad idea? Will I feel rushed through my meal by booking a reservation so close to closing time? Would it be better to try to get an earlier time, or can I still feel like we can relax and enjoy our meal?"
Oh, you're going to have a great time. I typically do close to closing time. I've never felt rushed.
Absolutely. You won't have a problem at all. I mean, I've had ones, we talked about this on our last live show, Mike, where you and I had a dinner at Japan and Epcot. I think it was like 8:45 like 9 o'clock, you know. So this is right before park closing, and I don't think we felt rushed at all, right?
No, not at all. We actually got in, placed our order, watched Illuminations, and I think we left there about 9:40.
Yeah, we were there for quite a while.
Yeah, it was quite a while.
I mean, the restaurant may definitely empty out a little bit, and some people don't like that feeling. But I mean, certainly the cast members do not make you feel uncomfortable in that you have to go or anything like that. So I wouldn't worry about that one bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it either. I mean, I've had dinners that started at park closing, so
yeah. I mean, they offer it.
And the great thing is you get to leave the restaurant, and you have the park kind of to yourself as you're being escorted towards the front. But still. Yeah, no,
you're absolutely right in that. You got a great view of the park. I mean, you really feel like the park is to yourself, and it's just really beautiful, especially if you want to grab one last picture while you're in there. Next email is from Liam Collerton. He writes, "Hi guys, we're planning a trip for August 2009. We've never been to Downtown Disney, so we're planning to go to the Gospel Brunch at House of Blues and then hit Disney Quest as soon as we can after it opens. Does Len have a touring plan for Disney Quest, or does he have any advice for efficient touring there?"
I don't actually know, and I think maybe I got one other request, over all these years for that. It's really not that crowded, and I don't think you have any trouble seeing all the big attractions if you're gonna be there in an afternoon. I wouldn't worry about it. You might want to get when you get in, ask any of the cast members what the most popular games or attractions are in Disney Quest, and then go see those first. You should be fine.
I suspect the most popular ones will probably be the Space Mountain one and the Pirates of the Caribbean one, right?
Possibly.
Yeah. Next email is from Rob Crawford, who writes, "Love your show. Really helps me get in the mood for another trip to the world. A tip on offsite dining. Dixie Crossroads. The one in Orlando itself is probably not worth it. Apparently different owners. But the one in Titusville is excellent. Yes, it's 45 minutes away. But to give you an idea of how good it is, my family discovered the place about 20 years ago, and it's still one of our all-time favorites. Nice. The last time they were at the World, my parents took the drive to Titusville, and I'm seriously considering it during my trip." Dude, it's called Publix, so you don't have to drive to Titusville to get decent dining thing. I mean, you know, it's a little much to do, but hey, if it works for you, that's good to hear.
That's great.
Rob also adds, "I won't ask you for any info in regards to my next trip. You'll never get to this in time, as I'm a solo off-season traveler. I prefer to wing it anyway. But I do want to say that I'm quite disappointed in the menu at the Yak and Yeti. I was hoping for Indian food. Seemed like a no-brainer given the theming around the restaurant. But looking at all ears, it appears the food is just slightly themed with a focus on China and Japan. Seems out of place for me, as well as just repeating something we can get better in Epcot. Maybe it's just me, but I think the world could stand a good Indian or Thai restaurant."
It's just not that popular with, you know, people who don't live in large cities.
I think Indian food is really definitely spreading among communities, not so much even being in urban centers anymore. I think really the real issue is my big gripe with Yak and Yeti. It's not a Disney-owned restaurant. And like many non-Disney-owned restaurants, they tend. I just never found it's the same level of be it quality or food selection than the great Disney restaurants that we know of. And then again, they tend to pick this kind of cookie cutter dishes like you find like at the Rainforest Cafe, for instance. I just haven't been that thrilled with the food at Yak and Yeti either. So I'm definitely feeling you on that one, Rob. Next email is from Terry in Nashville, who writes, "Which buildings do you recommend for a family of 4 at Port Orleans Riverside? We'll be there for a week and a half in mid-June 2009 and plan to fish and rent watercraft at least once. I've got a reservation for a Waterview room, but I've not yet requested a specific building or area. We prefer a quiet room, away from pools, restaurants, and lounges, although the trip won't be complete without at least one visit to Yeehaw Bob at the lounge. And while we're there, we'll be celebrating both a child's birthday and our wedding anniversary. I'm a bit concerned that our Waterview room may turn out to be a noisy pool instead of the quiet river. Your thoughts?" Len, do you want to look up what you have in the unofficial guide for recommendations for Port Orleans Riverside?
Yeah, let me just point out that this is actually the second Yeehaw Bob reference we've had in the last week. Were we talking about him at?
Yeah, when you were visiting the Walt Disney World last week.
That's funny. All right, so the best views in the Magnolia Bend side are from the 3rd floor riverside of Acadian House. That's Building 80, which overlooks the river and Old Man Island. There's also what?
Scopa Island.
Scopa Island. Island. Exactly.
Nothing.
There's also in Magnolia Terrace and Oak Manor in buildings 85 and building 90. There's rooms 9416, 17, 9039, 9042, and then 9239 to 9242. Also have good Waterview rooms. There's also some in Parterre Place in building 95 that has a bunch that are overlooking the river, but they also look over the parking lot on the far shore, so that's not probably the best way to go. If you're in, if you want a river view in Alligator Bayou, ask for a 2nd-story Waterview room in building 27, 38, or possibly 14.
Great.
Is a Waterview considered a pool view?
Yeah, anywhere where you can see water.
Yeah, so if it's facing a pool, it's considered a water view?
Yeah, it's considered a water view. Oh, Building 18 is actually a decent compromise in terms of quietness and convenience.
I might want to try for that one. I think also, Annette, again, this might be a good opportunity to, mention a good Disney travel agent in this case. I mean, can help you not make sure that, these kinds of requests are permitted, because obviously it's one thing to request a water view. It's quite another to get the water view that you want in this case, right?
Specific room. That's hard to do.
Right. And so it's very hard to get, but and Disney will never guarantee it. But there's also you got to make sure your preferences are in there in the right order. If you throw everything and just told you into the request, there's no telling where you'll end up.
Absolutely. Next email is from someone who didn't put their name. And don't forget in your emails, put name and where you're from, so we can give you credit for it. But he did write,
right.
P.S. Go Jets. So,
all right.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe I don't know.
Anyway, this mystery person writes, I just heard you guys answer my question regarding finding iced coffee in the parks. Although 2 months late and the fact that you didn't know the answer, I enjoyed listening to you guys banter about the topics I suggested. I was able to find iced coffee at the Main Street Bakery. Many thanks again, and I now know who to ask if I want my questions kind of answered months after it would help. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Wow.
Well, better late than never. That's right. We answered it. Give you your time. Next email is from Catherine Hughes, who writes, I loved episode 458. What a great idea. I don't know what episode that is. I'm new to the podcast, but have really enjoyed it. However, I beg to differ on some of your points. We all know that Walt Disney wanted his park to be continually evolving, and so some rides definitely need to go or be refurbished. But I think you missed the mark on some rides. You guys are looking at them as adults and not as children. So a ride that may not be appealing to you could be a child's favorite. Some of these rides that you mentioned are my children's favorites, and they would be upset to see them go. Love the show. Keep up the great work.
In my defense, let me just say that I may be 40 years old, but I act like I'm 12. So I don't know if that's entirely true. But anyway.
Next email is from Mark, who writes, hey, Mike, Matt, Len, and the fabulous Annette. On episode 459, you talked about the do's and don'ts and tips concerning rental cars. We've been to the world 6 times now, and we're coming again for MouseFest 2000. All right, they're coming for MouseFest. Let's leave it at that.
Welcome back.
we
had a great time.
We've rented a car every time since the first trip. It seems well worth the cost to us for most of the same reasons you guys brought up on the show. However, we've got another factor to make getting a car pretty much a necessity. We absolutely refuse to fly out of Orlando International Airport due to the insanely long lines at the check-in counters. The frustration nearly always seemed to steal some of the magic at the end of our trips. The last couple of trips to the world, we've opted to fly in and out of Tampa. What a pleasure that's been. The drive to Disney World is only about 45 minutes longer than from Orlando, with no toll roads coming into the parks from the west. The car rental pickup ends up being right across the street from baggage claim, so that's our tip.
I actually drove from Tampa to Orlando back from the Super Bowl, so there and back. It actually wasn't bad at all. It's a pretty pleasant drive, and further proof that Florida is at the forefront of civilization. There's a 24-hour Starbucks on I-4.
Ooh.
I know. It's just God's way of telling you that you need to make the drive.
I also wanted to add that not only is it an option to fly to Tampa, some airlines, I know AirTran now flies into, or not AirTran, excuse me, Allegiant Air flies into Sanford, but also I believe AirTran flies into Daytona. And that's not, again, it can be, I mean, if you're going to save like $100, $200, if there's some great deal going into it, because again, who flies into Daytona? You can save some money there.
Daytona's a great airport to fly into.
Yeah, it's a small one, right?
Not a bad drive either.
Yeah.
It's not a bad drive.
Yeah, it's just straight on 4. I mean, So, another option too. Oh, I just deleted the wrong email. Oops. Oh, well, sorry, whoever it was. All right, that's a long email. I should have deleted that one. Next email is from Brett Ward in New Hampshire. Not you, Brett. Who writes, I've always visited Walt Disney World in December because the crowds are so small. My wife and I are not fans of the holidays, so it's almost a detraction when we go in December. Is there any time of the year we can go, see crowd levels similar to December, and not run into the heat and ride closures of September? We live in New Hampshire, so 50 or higher is considered a heat wave. 90 or higher is cruel and unusual punishment. My favorite time of the year is the first weekend in February. It's really February and even January. It's decent temperatures out. Crowds are negligible to non-existent generally, with the exception of the Martin Luther King holiday. But it's like the first 6 weeks of the year, I really think are great. Len, any thoughts on comparable times to December?
Let's see. February, other than President's Day, is usually pretty good. January, right after the holiday, so like the first full week, the first full Monday after New Year's, is usually pretty good. But it's cold then. That's the thing. And then like early May, right after after Easter.
Yeah, early May is great, like the first week or two.
Yeah, first week or two, exactly. First week or two May, yeah.
I mean, it can get a little hot then, but it's still wonderful.
Yeah.
How about a weekend in March? How's the weather like there?
Like what, the first weekend in March?
Someone's going to be sleeping outside. What would the weather be like?
You might want to check on that, but I believe the highs are going to be in the upper 70s, low 80s. Lows are going to be in the 60s. It should be fine.
Good.
Okay.
Brett adds.
Warmer than normal. Mm-hmm.
Brett adds also, whatever time do you recommend? Yeah, let me try that again. Whatever time you recommend, would it be beneficial to buy an annual pass if we're staying for 8 to 10 days? Would the discounts at the resorts be worth it? I'm asking because I couldn't find a direct answer in the unofficial guide or touringplans.com. Ding. I'm not complaining. I love them both. So, Len, 8 to 10 days is worth it getting AP in your mind?
Depends on where you're staying. So if you're staying at a deluxe resort, yeah, it makes sense. If you're at a moderate resort and you can get the AP discount, you're kind of like right there on the bubble. But if it's a value resort, then no, it's not worth it for in terms of stay.
Cool. Next email is from Melinda Trahey of Warrington, Pennsylvania. Who writes, "Hi guys, I love the podcast and I'm a regular listener. I hope you can help me out. I'm going to Walt Disney World in January on a solo trip. I'll be in the area for a week, and we'll try to limit the magnetic pull of the parks for about 3 to 4 days. I've been on shorter solo trips in the past, but they were before FastPass had evolved to what it is now by isolating guests in the standby lines. I'm now planning my general itinerary just for me. I want to experience all my favorites and plan a lot of bench sitting, people watching, and breathing it all in. I love getting to the parks first thing in the morning and know I'll be able to move around easier with just me to keep track of. But since I'll be a group of one, the strategy of FastPass Runner doesn't exist. So I was wondering how I can take advantage of FastPass without a lot of crisscrossing or backtracking. Even though I'll be visiting during an anticipated lower crowd level, thanks touringplans.com, to pick up a FastPass later in the day may show a return much later than desirable, especially if I park up or have ADRs. Do you have any ideas about taking advantage of FastPass in a touring plan for a party of one? Thanks for your help. You guys rock."
The thing with FastPass is that you've got to generally backtrack to use it. So you got to go there once to get the FastPass, then backtrack again to use it. And that's true no matter if you're following as part of a touring plan or in this case, if you're just trying to maximize your FastPass use. There's really no way around it. That being said, what I would do is concentrate on the the headliner attractions. I would never get a FastPass for a show. I can't think of any shows that I would ever FastPass. Can you?
Now, generally speaking, most of the shows, at the studios, they've all pulled back their FastPass. Like Indiana Jones, Lights, Motors, Action, and even Voyage of the Little Mermaid. They just don't have it anymore. They have it, but they really only save it for like July 4th. They really don't use it on a daily basis, even during the somewhat busier times of the year. You really can't get it in a lot of the shows, but B, I agree with you, Len, you probably don't even need them for those.
What about using a single rider line?
Yeah, that could definitely be a great idea, Annette.
We actually did that at Rock and Roller Coaster on Saturday afternoon. We got there like around, I guess we got in around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and Hanny and I rode the single rider line and literally walked on the first time, made it through to the pre-show, and then we're like 5th or 6th in line because there weren't that many people in the single rider line for the extra. Got off and rode again. In fact, I think we rode a couple of times. My head ended up hurting, which is why we had to stop doing it. Yeah.
Nice. That leads us to our last question of the day. That means when we get to the last question of the day, we have Mr. Mike Newell pick the last question.
Drum roll, please.
So, Mr. Newell, are you ready to pick your last question?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. All right. Last question options are, first question, Mysterious Magic Kingdom Beach. Second question, lightning round of crazy questions, or question about Lou's 7 Wonders.
Wow.
Mysterious Magic Kingdom Beach, lightning round of crazy questions, or question about Lou's 7 Wonders.
All right, let's go with the lightning round of crazy questions, although I am fascinated about the Magic Kingdom Mystery Beach. Yeah. But that'll be for another time.
All right, well, you picked a nice long one, Mike. It's our last question.
I figured that. That's why.
Our last question of the day comes from Mike in Minneapolis, land of Van. Right, hey guys, and the fabulous Annette. Just wanted to say thank you as I just got back from Walt Disney World, and your great work helped in so many ways to make our trip go smoothly. You are also helping with Disney withdrawals now that it's over, as I continue to tune in, learn, laugh, and dream about our next trip. So, many questions pop up after a trip. I know you have limited time, but I thought it's an enlightening round of who, what, why, where, when questions, and see if you can quickly fire off answers. Maybe Matt can speak even faster than he usually does. I don't want to. Shut up, Newell. I don't want to hog the podcast, so just have some fun and see if you can wing out some answers to these. So, you guys ready for this?
Yep. Let's go.
Ready, set, go. Who among you has logged the most days in Walt Disney World? Have you kept track? Divulge the numbers. Let's see who spent the most time there.
So I once calculated that if I kept up my current pace of visits, that by the time I died, if I lived for like 80 or whatever, I would have spent 3% of my life in Walt Disney World.
I would definitely bet Len with, I don't know, maybe if Scopo went for months at a time at some point when he was, he's been around for God knows how long. So
yeah, I tend to put in 6 or 7 trips a year of at least a few days each.
Well, since Scopo's not here, we award the award to you, Len. So congratulations.
I'm honored. Thank you.
What control does Disney have over how wet you get on, say, Splash Mountain and Kali River Rapids? I was soaked to the bone on Kali last time I was there, and reasonably wet on Splash Mountain. But this time, with cooler temperatures, it seemed like the rides were somewhat splashless. Can they adjust these rides depending on the weather?
Yes.
Yeah, they have water cannons on Splash Mountain.
Just water.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't fire them when it's really cold. And also on Kali, they can adjust the height of the water.
Right.
The way it sprays out, and that sort of adjusts how much you
I didn't know that. Yeah, the water cannons on Splash are right when you obviously go down that last drop over there. Generally speaking, it doesn't make that big of a splash, but during the hotter times of the year, they have these cannons that shoot out water, and that's what really hits you.
Yeah.
Where is your favorite spot to just be in Disney World? The spot you go to when you shut your eyes and imagine yourself there. Newell? This is a good Newell question.
It is a good Newell.
Goodness.
Hammer Shop? All-Star Vacation Home?
It's a good place. In the pool, let me tell you, it was a good place. With nobody around, it was a great place. I would say on a bench outside of Great Britain in World Showcase.
That's good. I love walking. For me, it's walking in Frontierland from Liberty Square towards Splash Mountain. That path has always been the quintessential Disney World moment in my mind. Len?
Good question. I would say probably Tom Sawyer Island.
And for posterity, Annette?
Walking down Main Street looking at the castle. I always got to have that moment.
Very good. Why, oh why, is the animated chariot missing from the Rome scene in Spaceship Earth? I don't.
The bow blew out.
Yeah, exactly. Hannah mentioned that the last time we were on. And so did Laurel, I think, when I was running with her during the marathon. That's interesting that the last 2 people that I was on the ride mentioned that. I don't know. Maybe Scopa needed the lithograph back. I don't know. That's my horse.
When, if ever, might we see an animatronic Walt Disney in the parks? As in Mr. Lincoln Hall of Presidents. I'm sure this has been discussed. If it's respectable to have Lincoln in the parks, it would be also respectful and appropriate to have Walt talking about his dreams. Do you personally think Disney should or might do something like this? Any inside info?
Yeah.
Now, I think really Walt Disney One Man's Dream is, I think, a perfect tribute to the man without being overly preachy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that having too much of Walt there kind of makes like sip the Kool-Aid guys, because this guy.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The Kool-Aid thing. Lincoln is kind of like a major figure in American history. Walt, as much as we all love him, is not on the same level as Abraham Lincoln. That being said, I think they did a good job of honoring him in that attraction.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mike adds, thanks if you managed to get all this in, and thanks for everything that you do. So thank you, Mike, for those questions. And that'll wrap it up for us today. Don't forget that this episode of WDW Today has been sponsored by MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, and Becky and all the great agents at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel can help you plan your next trip to Walt Disney World. They can make your next trip that much easier on yourself, so you don't have to worry about things. They'll get everything taken care of for you, and you, Mike Newell, can just relax and be in England and sip your beer and have your fish and chips and broadcast everything on your Q phone back to Mary at home, who you left there.
That is the life.
That's the life. Very good. Don't forget to visit MEI Mouse Fan Travel online at www.mousefantravel.com. That'll do it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the WDW Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Line Test, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and the fabulous Annette Owens, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.